Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Genus Ordinis Day, Glare of Deliverance, out December 4th on Eclipse Records. This album has 10 tracks, 17.2 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. These guys are from Italy, they're a symphonic death metal band, and this album is a concept, a story of Eleanor, a young woman accused of being a witch by the Holy Inquisition. Now this story comes together across all the different elements that this album has to offer. Structure, lyrics, sound, vocals. Everything is there in order to paint a vivid picture of what is happening and what her struggles and what her story is all about. You really feel like it's coming to life with every single track and with all the elements that make up this record. Starting off with the structure is flawless. Individually, as far as the songs are concerned, and the overall album structure. I love the fact that the album starts off with an intro. It gives you a little bit of a sense of a movie starting, or you getting to know the characters, getting to know the ambiance in which this story is going to be played out. So I feel like that intro is very important. It's short, it's concise, it doesn't offer too much as far as the actual story goes, but it offers a sense of atmosphere in terms of placing the story in a very specific time frame, in a very specific environment. Then the transitions between the tracks are phenomenal. They really help you understand what is happening. Sometimes the lyrics will move into second place when you're listening to the songs because there's so many things coming at you, there's so many things happening. So having the story come together in the transitions, hearing the characters, hearing where they are, where they're going to, really helps you. It really guides you from track to track, and it keeps you on the right path in terms of understanding exactly in which point of this story you're in and where you're moving towards. And I love the attention to detail. There's one scene where there's a man on a horse and he's riding away, and it starts on one side of your headphones, moves to the other, and then you have the sense of him fading into oblivion. I love that attention to detail. It's not just a man on a horse. You're not just hearing the sound. You feel the movement within your ears as you're listening to that track, as you're listening to that transition that's taking you from one song into the next. So that attention to detail is present across the overall structure and in the individual song structure that this record has to offer, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It really helps the concept. It really helps bringing it to life. Now, as far as sound is concerned, this album is very cinematic, and you have to go that route. You have to bring out all the great orchestrations, the choirs, all the symphonic elements have to come to life and have to play a huge role in order for you to be fully engulfed in what is happening within this record. So I love the presence, I love the overall sound experience. Like I said, very cinematic across every single track, a lot of changes. This is a very dynamic album, not just from song to song, but within tracks themselves. You never feel very comfortable because you never know what's going to happen around the corner. So it has that storytelling ability of keeping you on the edge of your seat, but it's doing it to you not just from a lyrical perspective, but more so from a sound perspective, and how everything is coming together and how everything is being delivered to the listener. The guitars and drums play a parallel role. They work really well together across this whole record. They provide a lot of power, they provide a lot of heaviness, they provide a lot of strength, and they really increase the tempos. They really change the dynamics of the song, and they make you feel like you're going from perhaps a more melancholic approach of where you are with the characters to a more aggressive, a more angry, or even darker side of the storytelling ability that this album has to offer. So I love the combination of roles that the drums and guitars have. They're not working just side by side, they're really working in unison across every single song in order to give you a little bit more of a heaviness, because the album is very cinematic from a symphonic perspective, so sometimes it becomes a little bit light. So you need a little bit of darkness, you need a little bit of heaviness to bring it down, to make this story feel darker, to give you a full sense of the atmosphere behind it. And I really felt that the drums and guitars did that throughout the record. The vocals are very consistent. There are a lot of changes, there are dynamic changes, but the overall vocal approach is very consistent from beginning to the end. The changes happen depending on where you are with the characters and which character is coming to the forefront. So sometimes you're going to get a little bit of a spoken word, sometimes you're going to get a little bit of a change in tone, a change in delivery, but you also need that in order to really define who's who within the story, within the song, within the place that you're in. Without that aspect, if the vocals were the same approach from top to bottom, the whole story would fall flat. You wouldn't know who's who, you wouldn't understand the dynamics of what's happening, you wouldn't understand the fluidity of the record, and you wouldn't get a sense for the real characters, and you wouldn't fall in love with those characters as you progress through the record. So while the album is very consistent, there are enough changes, and those changes happen in the right places in order to bring the story to life. Overall, this is a magnificent record, but this is a record that's going to divide the fans into two different groups. If you're a casual metal fan, this album is too much for you. There's too much to digest. It's a record that requires you to sit down, pay attention to it, perhaps have the lyrics at hand as you're going through it so you can really understand the overall concept. You can really understand Eleanor and her struggles and everything that she's going through. So for the casual fan, this is going to be a very hard album to digest, and an album that you can't just take one or two songs out of it and listen to them in a vacuum, because while they're good on their own, they're really much better in the overall context of the album. Now, for the more astute metal fan, let's put it that way, or for a fan of the genre of symphonic death metal, this album is absolutely flawless and perfect. It's an album that you can sit down, enjoy the ride, read the lyrics, fall in love with the characters, and almost close your eyes and imagine everything that you're listening to happening in front of you. So like I said, this is going to be a polarizing album depending on which side of the spectrum you fall under. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I want to start off with Judgment. This is my favorite song on the album. The atmosphere on this track is absolutely phenomenal. The melody has this wall of sound that feels menacing and beautiful at the same time. The guitars and drums are very heavy, working in parallel, working together to really provide a strong foundation for this song, really providing a dark backdrop to it. The verses feel a lot more dark and a lot more menacing because that's what you're going to get with the majority of the heaviness coming in that specific portion of the song. The chorus is a lot more melodic, a lot more liberating, and it gives the right dynamic to the track. It gives you the right ups and downs as you navigate through this song, showing you two different sides of the same coin. Next, Exorcism. The opening is filled with hope. There's a little bit of hope in the atmosphere and the sound that's coming at you. You almost sense that there is a possibility of something good coming to the forefront. And then the song turns into darkness. The song really drives into a pit of darkness, and that comes with the bass. When you hear the bass coming in, when you hear the sound from it, you really feel the mood of this track completely changing. The atmosphere changes, the sound changes, everything, your perception of the song changes. So it goes into a dark abyss, if you will. The alternating approaches that this track has, it's really moving between dark and brightness, or light, if you will. But that light never really feels too bright. There is always a sense of an ease with the light aspects that the song has to offer. Almost like they're light, but depending on the perspective of the character. Perhaps if you're Eleanor, you don't see too much light at the end of the tunnel. But if you're the people trying to hurt her, you see perhaps hope and light in what you are doing because you feel validated by your actions. So this song really has this interesting dynamic as far as darkness and brightness is concerned, and the brightness not always being the right kind of brightness, depending once again of which character you are and how you look at this track. Last but not least, Fire. This is the last track on the album, and this album is really a synopsis of everything this album has to offer. It's a very heavy song at times, very melodic, very symphonic. It has interludes, it has solos, it has transitions, it has ups and downs. It's an absolute roller coaster ride. It's a song that could almost stand on its own. It's a mini movie within the movie itself. It's a track that took everything that the band had to offer you across the previous 9 songs and threw them all together in the closing track to create this bombastic finale to the record. I just felt that it was an incredible way of closing off an album. Just absolutely magnificent. When you're listening to this song, you honestly don't know exactly where you are. There's so many things to process. There's so many things coming at you. There's so many changes. It's just a very convoluted, really well-constructed track that never breaks character. You always feel like you're moving. You always feel like there's a reason for whatever it's happening. Either be a change in vocals going into a spoken word, almost like a narrator-style vocals, harsh vocals, a bridge, a transition, a solo. Whatever it is that they're throwing at you, there's always a purpose. So this song comes together at the end of the record, and it gives you a glimpse of everything that you experienced up until this point. This is it, guys. This is Genus Ordinis Day with Glare of Deliverance out December 4th on Eclipse Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.